Good afternoon. The House Agricultural and Natural Resources Subcommittee for March 4th, 2026 will come to order. Members, please sign in if you've not, and we will take the roll. So if you could please sign in. There we go.
Right here, you're going to say 12.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna see if I can roll my bill a week.
Sure.
When's the last one?
Okay.
Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we begin with business, are there any personal orders or announcements from committee members? Okay. Seeing none, without further announcements, let's take care of some housekeeping. Without objection, item 1, House Bill 1510, will be rolled 1 week. Item 9, House Bill 1509 will be rolled 1 week. Item 10, House Bill 2463 will be rolled 1 week. Item 11, House Bill 2392 will be rolled 1 week. Item 12, House Bill 848 will be rolled 1 week. And item 14, HJR 780 will be rolled 1 week. And item 18, House Bill 2192 will be rolled 1 week. And with that, our first item on the agenda is the distinguished Chairman Vaughn with House Bill 2385. There's a motion and a second. And Chairman Vaughn, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, we passed legislation allowing a property owner to request connection to a gravity sewer line, and the utility was required to provide it if the sewer line is already on the property owner's property. Last fall, we had a case in front of Tibor where the sewer line was not on the owner's property because they had constructed a road that had been publicly dedicated. And so now the sewer line was not on their property. It was within a public right of way that they did not own. And Tibor held, and the board's attorney agreed with the city's interpretation of that statute, saying the word on requires the gravity sewer line to be physically located on the owner's private property, even if they had dedicated and improved where the sewer line now lies. And so specifically, a member of Tibor suggested to the property owner that we might look at changing the language of that bill. And so what we're adding into it is a property owner can request a connection to a gravity sewer line if one is in a public street right of way, within public access easements, or within public utility easements immediately adjacent to their property. And that's the bill in its entirety, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Vaughn. I understand that we have an amendment for the bill, and can you give us that drafting code? Am I right that you're wanting to put an amendment on that bill?
Yes, sir. Ooh. It is 013230.
That is the amendment. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second? Second. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, if there's no other objections, then the amendment is on the bill. And he has presented the bill. And do we have any questions about this bill as amended? Okay. Well, let me recognize Representative Alexander.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. At this time, we want to ask the clerk to go to the vote. If you will vote in the affirmative, please do, or the negative. Clerk, would you please read the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes and 0 noes.
House Bill 2385 moves to full committee. Congratulations, Chairman Vaughn. Item number 2 is House Bill 2355 by Chairman Howe. There's a motion and a second. There's an amendment filed on the bill. Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? All right, there's a motion and a second. Chairman Howe, please give us your drafting code.
The one I have, Chairman, is 014508.
And that's the one that you want to go with, not the other one. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor of that drafting code 014508, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. And the bill is now in proper order. And we will go and hear Chairman Howell explain his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill originated in my district and is a result of a waste disposal business, a small operation that has pump trucks. They pump septic tanks, basically is what they do. Unfortunately, one of the individuals who's a small operator was caught spreading the waste in the Cherokee National Forest, which is not permitted. And since that was federal land, the U.S. attorney was contacted. They said, we're too busy. This is a misdemeanor currently, $50 fine. And he said, turn it over to your DA. The DA said, I'm too busy. See if you can strengthen the code. And so that's what this bill does. It increases the offense to a Class B misdemeanor and possibly 6 months in jail at the discretion of the judge and up to a $500 fine. And the reason we increased it to $500 is because the dumping fee where he should have taken the waste at the landfill is $300. So a $50 fine is not sufficient for him to continue to make money on the dumping fee. So accidental spills, by the way, which can happen, we understand that, is still a Class C misdemeanor. Someone's septic field lines may rupture or something like that, and that's still a Class C $50 fine, and the TDEC people understand that. But this bill also tells the TDEC department that for the first violation, they can also remove the guy's permit for 30 days, second violation, 90 days, third violation, you're out of business. And that's what the bill does.
Members, we have been privileged to hear the explanation of House Bill 2355. Do we have any questions? I recognize Representative Shaw. Question's been called. Any objection? We're going to vote. Clerk, would you please open the board for us? And members, would you please vote? Everyone voted. Anybody want to change their vote? All right. Clerk, would you please read for us the results of the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That bill passes on to full ag. And now we will go to the next bill, and we are privileged to have Chairman Howell again. House Bill 2425.
Thank you, Mr.
Hold on just a
Speaker.
second.
I
Is
believe
there a
I have
motion?
have an amendment.
We're in proper form.
I believe I have an
Chairman?
amendment.
Yep, you have an amendment. What is your amendment?
014071.
Okay. Is there a motion on the amendment? Second, without objection, the amendment is accepted. Chairman Howe, please proceed with telling us about this bill and how it's been amended.
Thank you, Chairman. You all have heard me talk previously about the Ocoee River, which is in my district, the beautiful Polk County. And it is the only whitewater river in the United States that was used as an Olympic venue back in 1996. It is also in the Cherokee National Forest. And the state of Tennessee, back in 2017, created a memorandum of understanding with the Forest Service and with TVA. And in that legislation, it created the Ocoee River Recreation and Economic Development Board, which unfortunately I chair. Um, But a part of the memorandum of understanding is the whitewater outfitters, of which there are many, charges a per person fee, and that's fee is then handed over and put in escrow in the treasurer's office. And that money is used to advertise and try to grow the economy in the Ocoee region. We have had some success. Last year, our tourism increased by, I think, 11%, but we think we can do better. We really do think we can do better. So what this bill does, after consultation with the board, is seeking to broaden our ability to spend some of those funds into broader application and go into partnerships. Right now, it's very narrowly defined on what we can spend. And this would allow us as a board to enter into partnerships with sponsors of festivals. For example, last September, we had a Jeep festival, 3-day Jeep festival that brought in 5,000 visitors to that state park just in one little spot. The Ocoee River, by the way, is a state park now, and I'm really happy about that. But there's one section near the put-in below the dam that would hold 6,000 people, lots of parking. And so this would broaden our ability to spend money and try to attract more people. It would also add the Tennessee State Parks, Director of State Parks, to the Ocoee River Board. And finally, the bill seeks to increase the safety. If you've been through the gorge in the summer when there are just people everywhere, it seeks to increase safety and protect the river by reducing the number of permits on the river through attrition, not putting anybody out of business, through attrition to 12. There's now 24. Forest Service is not happy about that. So we're trying to be good partners. And so I would ask for approval.
Would ask you that if we could vote on the amendment. We got a motion and a second. We didn't vote on it. So all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Any opposed? The amendment is on the bill now. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Representative Chairman Grills.
Thank.
First, I had mentioned in a memo that our time was going to be limited today to be able to ask one question and perhaps a follow-up so we can get through our whole agenda. So if you have 2 questions or 3, would you ask them at one time so that we can try to do the best we can to move through our processes here in a timely manner? Thank you, Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I will do that if he answers the right way. But if he doesn't answer the right way, I'm out. Okay. You're going from, good to see you, Chairman Howe. 24 permits down to 12 through attrition. So if we're going to do that, say you built a business up and you've spent 25, 30 years and you built this business and you'd like to sell that business to someone else. And okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to make sure that that person has built that business and they've got a real strong book of business. They like to say, all right, I'm done. I'm going to retire. And then they want to sell that to whoever in the private sector wants to buy it. I want to make sure that they can, sell what they've accumulated and how they built that.
Chairman Howe.
Thank you for the question. Good question. Yes, they can sell their business. In fact, we've had some sell recently. They would have to also apply for the permit to be put in their name. And that business can also be handed down to a family member. So we're trying to protect the businesses that are there because they have about a $50 million economic impact within a 50-mile radius.
Chairman Grills for a follow-up.
Thank you for this follow-up. But would that do away with those permits? So from the 24 to the 12, would that still, how are they getting rid of those 24 or from those 12 permits through attrition and translating it or transferring it over to another entity, whether it's a family or someone else, without losing their spot, if you will?
Chairman Howe.
I may have confused the issue for you, sir, and I forgot. I apologize. I'm talking about a viable business. If they sell or if they want to retire and hand it over to a family member, they can do that. The permits that will be reduced are happened in rules which are promulgated through the Government Operations Committee, It's not in this bill, but if they don't pay their sales tax, for example, if they don't abide by the rules that are promulgated, if they're, a lot of things goes on in state parks, but if they are, caught using drugs on some of their guides, I mean, there's many things that would cause them to lose their permit. And that's handled by TDEC and the commissioner of TDEC. So we're urging the TDEC, when those things happen over a period of time, to reduce the number to 12 so that we can have a viable, good industry that will continue into perpetuity.
Okay, is there another question from another member? Chairman Grills, do you have something else that you want to ask? Or are you good? Okay. All right, without seeing any other questions in, we're ready to vote. If you're in favor of House Bill 2425, clerk, would you please open the board and register your vote, members? Has everyone voted? Does anyone need to change their vote? Clerk, would you please read the total? Close the board and read the total.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes and 0 noes.
House Bill 2425 passes and will go to full committee. Thank you, Chairman. House Bill, item number 4, House Bill 1461 by Chairman Clemens. There's a motion. There's a second. And we have a motion and a second. Yep.
I have an amendment
And
on
then
this.
Chairman Clemens, please give us your drafting code on your amendment.
014501.
Okay. Is there an amendment on the motion? A motion on the amendment? There's a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. All right, we have the bill in proper order as amended. Chairman Clemens, please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. First of all, I'm not sure how I ended up in here. We just dealt with this topic in Business Utility Sub, but somehow I've ended up in Ag Sub, so it's an honor to be here. But what this bill seeks to do is to ensure that Tennesseans experience a benefit from the anticipated proliferation in data centers across the state of Tennessee. It would ensure transparency about the energy consumption of these facilities as well. Now, we all openly recognize the economic benefits of these data centers, but we must also acknowledge the very real cost. And anytime we're trying to weigh the cost-benefit analysis of this, it always helps to have transparency and public protections in place. So what this bill seeks to do is ensure the benefit side of the scale outweighs the cost. Tennessee families deserve to benefit from these AI and data centers. However, what this bill does is ensures that half of the data output that's generated, the computing power of this generated, serves a public benefit in some manner. Anywhere from educational purposes to scientific exploration or environmental protection. AI data centers can streamline the response and disaster preparedness for storms like Helene over in East Tennessee and Winter Storm Fern that Nashville just saw. So there are many different ways that public benefit as defined in this bill could benefit. So what it does is it ensures that at least 50% of output provides public benefit for the people of Tennessee. It only applies to these high computing data centers that use over 50 megawatts an hour. And for those, most of you are familiar with this, but 50 megawatts an hour is approximately enough power to power 50,000 homes in the state of Tennessee. So we're talking about a pretty substantial bar here. And right now in the state of Tennessee, there's only 3 such facilities, yet another one is expected to come online that would qualify under this threshold over in Memphis as well. The public benefit definition includes positive material effect or reduction in negative effect on academia and education, literacy, public health and benefits, environmental, cultural, and economic, among others. So it requires their reporting on what percentage was used for public benefit to ensure that we're meeting the threshold, and an audit would be performed by the facility at their expense to be provided to the Department of Environment and Conservation as well as their local entities. It also requires them reporting on a carbon footprint and environmental impact to specify the annual greenhouse gas emissions, efforts to reduce carbon footprint. And some of the public benefit requirement can be satisfied by using that data to find new ways to reduce the carbon footprint. And this requires the internal audit, of course, that can be required. And with that, I would submit it to the committee for questioning. I think it's incumbent upon us to not only, like I said at the outset, recognize the economic value of these and I think what is now an inevitable proliferation of these, but how are we going to ensure that they're being used for for good purposes, scientific exploration that, and the like, as outlined in this bill. We don't want just videos of cats pushing yarn or doing funny things, consuming all of our energy. We want these to be used for the public good. And that's what this bill seeks to do, and as well as provide transparency and seek to make sure that we know how much energy they're consuming. With that, I would ask for passage.
Thank you, Chairman Clemens, and we're so glad that you're here to present this bill. With that, we want to move to Chairman Todd. You have a question at this time?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I got really just two comments here. One of the things that this General Assembly just tries its best not to do, and that is put mandates on private businesses. And this puts a lot. Also, I think as an attorney, you would know that part of this mandate is a taking. There's no question it's a taking of their private property, their intellectual property, their production. And we just can't go down that road. I don't understand the premise behind this. So I could not support it for at least those two reasons. So I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Chairman.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mandate is in the public interest, and all public policy seeks to improve, protect the public and do public good. And so I think that box is checked. And as well as a taking, there is no taking here. There's simply transparency and accountability to the people, because what these do, specifically these data centers, high performance data centers over 50 megawatts per hour they consume a lot of energy. They are taking from normal consumers. They're pushing a great deal of impact on our electric grid, potentially increasing costs to consumers across the state of Tennessee. And so there is no, under the legal, as you know, definition of a taking, there is no taking here that would justify any concern in that regard, as that term is commonly used with regard to personal property. We're not taking anything. We're requiring them to provide an accounting via audit or otherwise to tell us what they're doing. And yes, we are mandating that they use at least 50% of that, which I think is a low bar and seems pretty reasonable, and certainly would serve the public good, to ensure that all that energy that's being sucked up and used in possible environmental pollution into the atmosphere is at least going towards some public benefit, educational, cultural, or otherwise, because if not, then what's the point? Are we just allowing these folks to just consume our water, consume our electricity, jack up energy prices, pollute our air with no guarantee of benefit? So, I mean, if we're going to allow them to proliferate and go into our rural communities across the state, and even it's one of our largest cities, shouldn't we be guaranteed a benefit from that? I think so. That's what this bill seeks to do in a very white glove manner, I think. I mean, 50%, as I said, is a pretty low bar. I'd like to know that they're actually doing something beneficial for us, for the people of Tennessee, rather than sucking up all our energy and polluting the air.
Chairman Todd for follow-up.
One simple follow-up. Karl Marx would love this idea. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Chairman Clemens, Chairman Clemens,
I didn't hear who would love that.
he said that Karl Marx would love this idea. Okay, did I quote that right?
You did, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, if not, we're ready to vote. If you are in favor of House Bill 1461, the clerk, if you'll open the board, push yes. And if you're not, push no. Clerk, well, has everyone voted? Anybody want to change their vote? Clerk, would you please read the vote total?
Mr. Chairman, you have 2 ayes and 6 noes.
House Bill 1461 fails. Yes, sir. Item number 5, House Bill 2396 by Representative Renaud. Members, we're going slightly out of order here because we have some guests that are here to testify, and I certainly want to get those that have traveled distances to give them the respect that they deserve by being here. So we're now going to take up item 13 on our agenda, which is House Bill 2396 by Representative Renaud. There's a motion. There's a second. Representative Renaud, you have a motion and a second. You may present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill is really grounded in a simple principle, and that is that public water should not be used as a system for mass medication without informed consent. Fluoridation is actually done not to clean water. Fluoridation is not done to purify or clean water. It is done to prevent cavities. This makes it a therapeutic drug intervention delivered through a public utility. The fluoride most commonly added today is fluorosilicic acid, which is a synthetic byproduct of the phosphate fertilizing manufacturing. It is not naturally occurring calcium fluoride. When it is added to public water, everyone is exposed. Infants, pregnant women, seniors, and individuals with medical sensitivities, without regard for dosage, health status, or consent. There is no opt-in, no parental permission, and no meaningful way to avoid this exposure unless a family spends a significant amount of money on filtration systems. There is no individualized dosing. A toddler consuming formula made with tap water receives a very different exposure per pound of body weight than an adult, something that we would never accept with any other medical intervention. The FDA classifies fluoride used to prevent cavities as a drug in toothpaste, which carries a warning to contact poison control if swallowed in excess. The FDA has begun action to remove ingestible fluoride tablets for children because they were never approved by the FDA. We have had fluoridated water for many decades, yet cavities remain common because tooth decay is primarily driven by sugar consumption, ultra-processed foods, and poor nutrition. You cannot out-fluoride a high-sugar diet. Modern dental science recognizes that fluoride's primary benefit is topical. This is on the surface of the tooth. This is not from systemic ingestion. Toothpaste, rinses, and varnishes treatments are easily, widely accessible, and very inexpensive. Local governments, as you'll see in the fiscal note, will save roughly $4 million annually by discontinuing fluoridation. That estimate of the fiscal savings does not include what we would save in repairs, maintenance, and replacement of the equipment that holds fluoride or transmits it. Those funds could easily be applied to support TennCare dental services, school-based sealant programs, and education efforts that directly reach the children who are most at risk. Other states like Utah, Florida, and today Ohio voted to also ban fluoride in their House. At the national level, our Secretary Kennedy has publicly called for a shift away from the systemic fluoride exposure. We do not need to wait on federal mandates. We can align our policy with modern science, fiscal responsibility, and individual choice. This bill does not ban toothpaste. It does not restrict dental care. It restores consent, reduces costs for local water systems, eliminates the need to store and handle corrosive industrial chemicals, and it keeps government focused on its core responsibility, which is providing clean, safe water, not medication. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Members, you've heard the explanation of the bill. We do have guests that are here to testify, and we will certainly want to have them up. But if anyone has a question for the representative before we can do that, or if you want to wait, we'll hear from the guest and then we'll go back. Okay, at that, thank you, Representative Renaud. And I'm going to ask if these members will come and take this 5 seats up front. Kathleen Thiessen, Dr. Jack Kyle, Clark Culver, Leon Stanislav, Alicia Azimipour, and then there was also a 6th person, Mr. Petty, but he decided not to testify. But if there was a question for him, he would be willing to be called up at that particular time. So what we're going to do is we're going to give each of the 3 of you, 3 of the 5 of you, 3 minutes, not 3 of you 5 minutes, 5 of you 3 minutes. And we're just going to go in succession. We're going to be a hard 3 minutes for you to testify, and then perhaps some of the members will have questions for you. So let me begin with Kathleen Thiessen.
Okay.
Identify yourself and who you are and to give your comments.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Thiessen. I'm a longtime resident of Tennessee. I've worked for 40 years in the field of human health risk assessment.
We need to go out of session. We're out of session. Go ahead. You're
okay.
Reclaimed.
Thank you. I've contributed to 2 National Research Council reports on fluoride exposure and toxicity, and I also wrote a report on fluoride exposure and toxicity for the Environmental Protection Agency. I served as an expert witness for plaintiffs in a recent lawsuit against the EPA in which the judge ruled that fluoridation of drinking water poses an unreasonable risk of neurotoxicity to children. I have three main points to make today. First, community water fluoridation is not associated with improved dental health. Several major reviews have found little or no benefit from water fluoridation, and the studies demonstrating benefits are of relatively poor quality by today's standards. There is no association between individual fluoride intake and caries experience. Water fluoridation does not reduce socioeconomic disparities. Any beneficial effect of fluoride on teeth is topical, not from ingestion of fluoride. Second, a number of adverse health effects are clearly associated with fluoride exposures. The federal court recently ruled that water fluoridation poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. The neurotoxic effect of fluoride on children is now considered well established by the Environmental Protection Agency. Dental fluorosis, probably the best known adverse health effect, is a marker for excess fluoride exposure during early childhood and is associated with increased risks of various adverse health effects, including thyroid disease, lowered IQ, and bone fracture. Other adverse health effects of fluoride include skeletal fluorosis, increased risk of bone fracture, genotoxicity and carcinogenicity, endocrine effects, increased blood lead levels, and hypersensitivity. Some minority or economically disadvantaged persons have increased risks of adverse effects from fluoride exposure. Third, by fluoridation of drinking water, governments and water suppliers are indiscriminately mass medicating the population without individual evaluation of need, appropriate dose, efficacy, or side effects, and without any margin of safety. The largest single source of fluoride exposure for most members of the population is municipal tap water. And infants fed formula prepared with fluoridated tap water have the highest fluoride exposures in the entire population at an extremely vulnerable stage of development. Other groups with high water intakes include outdoor workers, athletes, and military personnel. In conclusion, there is no safe level of fluoride exposure, and the ideal maximum concentration of fluoride in drinking water should be 0, as is the case for lead. For the sake of the health of all Tennesseans, the proper response to the evidence is to prohibit the deliberate addition of fluoride to drinking water.
Thank you, Ms. Deason. We will now move to Dr. Jack Call. You have 3 minutes. You'll state your name and who
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, my name is Dr. Jack Call. I'm a dentist practicing in Louisville, Kentucky. I also serve as the executive chair of the board of directors of the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology as a volunteer position. I represent and speak for thousands of holistic dentists opposed to fluoridation, not only in the United States, but around the world. I have studied and monitored fluoride science for over 30 years. I have lectured internationally about the published research regarding fluoride and have testified in numerous settings such as this about the concerns and risks of fluoride exposure. That is why I have more of a medical perspective about adding fluoride to the water supply, and therefore disagree with the average dentist who is focused on teeth. I will now address some of the misleading comments many of my dentist colleagues make when supporting fluoridation. Language suggesting that fluoride is harmless is frequently used. Words like, it is natural. Well, lead is a natural element, but it is toxic. Fluoride is not an essential nutrient. The body does not need it for any body functions. In fact, it is an enzyme inhibitor and adversely affects the function of our mitochondria. And even worse, it's been pointed out, the fluoride added to the water is not even pharmaceutical grade. It's a waste product from the fertilizer industry, contaminated with lead and radon. The Cochrane collaboration of scientific experts is considered the gold standard for evaluating the effectiveness of medical interventions. An updated 2024 Cochrane report found fluoridation only reduced cavities at best a tiny 3 to 4%, with the statistical possibility of no effectiveness at all. This new report totally contradicts the American Dental Association's outdated claim of a 25% reduction. Another fallacy is about what happened in Calgary, Canada, when they stopped adding fluoride to the water. The dental lobby claims that the rate of tooth decay increased when fluoridation was stopped. What they don't tell you is that the rate of decay was already increasing at the same rate before fluoridation was stopped. 20 years ago, an article in the Journal of Evidence-Based Dental Practice stated that the precautionary principle should be applied to fluoridation. That means that when there is sufficient doubt, don't add fluoride. More recently, in August 2024, the National Toxicology Program published its thoroughly peer-reviewed report that analyzed 64 studies on fluoride and IQ and found that the higher fluoride exposure was associated with lower child IQ, and that 18 of those studies were of very high quality. I applaud you for considering.
Thank you for sharing, but your 3 minutes has expired. We may come back to you with a question. Dr. Carl, I'm sorry. Clark Culver, you are the next one. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, and thank you for recognizing me. I am Clark Culver. I'm a water utility operator, have been for over 25 years in Mississippi and in Tennessee. I'm responsible for ensuring regulatory compliances, system safety, and public health protection for all our community drinking water sources. From an operator's perspective, I do not support the addition of fluoride to public drinking water because it introduces operational risk, infrastructure damage, and dosing challenges. But let me say this, there has to be a better way to deliver this if it needs to be delivered to the people other than a water system. Because we're poorly equipped, we are poor excuses for trying to provide medical grade stuff from medical supplies to our community's water systems. And so I've done this for years, and some of the most neglected areas in a local utility is the fluoridation room, because it is very destructive, compound. It will eat through concrete. It will etch the glass in these rooms. It will eat up metallic fittings. It is very, very, very detrimental. And we as operators, myself speaking for myself and other operators across the state of Tennessee, do not like to have to deal with this on a daily basis. And it would be a wonderful thing if we could remove it from our responsibility. We have to manage it. We have to offset its acidic nature by adding more chemicals. The costs are just astronomical on the decaying of our old infrastructures. The utilities that I've operated have been, the distribution centers have been over 50 years old. So there's asbestos lines in place. There are lead lines in place, and some of the larger municipalities have lead lines in place currently. And so anytime you add a leaching compound to the water system, it's going to leach that and carry it straight to the tap of the person that's drinking it. And that is very harmful. And we as operators do not have a resource from the health department to order issue basically an order to if there is an overfeed of fluoride. We do have a boil water order if we have pathogens or things that are causing harm in the water, but we don't have anything for overfeeds. And so we can't ethically order a boil water order for fluoride because it concentrates whenever it's boiled. And so it does create an issue for operators, and not only on this level, but on several different levels. And we would like to be heard and considered in this, because it also affects our health when we are handling this product, this dangerous product every day. It's the only chemical that comes to our plant that's delivered to us in a skull and crossbone delivery tanker truck. And so we know operators knowing this and seeing this every time.
Thank you, Mr. Culver. Your time has expired, and I will move to Leon Stanislav.
There it goes.
Thank
you, Mr. Chairman. I am Leon Stanislav, a dentist from the Clarksville area, representing the TDA, my patients, and members of the community. I served as the chairman of the National Fluoridation Advisory Committee for the ADA for about 15 years. I firmly stand in support of community water fluoridation at the current recommended level of 0.7 milligrams per liter. I was a healthcare provider for 45 years as a practicing dentist, now retired, but still active in my profession and community. This is important to me, having witnessed the suffering and harm brought on by the most common childhood disease, which is tooth decay. It is a lifelong threat to oral and systemic health. Since 1945, community water fluoridation has proven its safety and effectiveness as the most cost-effective, readily accessible modality that has no boundaries to age, gender, race, or socioeconomic status in preventing tooth decay. This disease is not only debilitating, but even life-threatening. The lack of good oral health creates loss of time from work and school, low self-esteem for societal integration, and the most basic human need, eating. Nutrition starts at the mouth. When we talk about fluoridation, emphasis must be given to dose. The preponderance of studies which attempt to show harm are low-quality studies based on higher levels than we recommend in the United States by twofold or more. The meta-analysis by Taylor and others on IQ used studies and data from foreign countries at higher levels of fluoride. More than half were from China. Some were from Iran, and the nearest one was from Mexico. None were from the United States. A more recent analysis, Childhood Fluoride Exposure and Cognition Across the Life course, published in the Science Advisor by Warren and others, looked at a cohort of some 27,000 U.S. subjects and actually saw a pattern of increased IQ relative to fluoride exposure. Even the NTP monograph conceded there was insufficient evidence to conclude optimally fluoridated water caused harm and that there was significant bias in the publications. Neither that report nor Judge Chen's actions in federal court had any recommendations to stop water fluoridation. You can look to Calgary, Canada, and Juneau, Alaska to see the spike in decay rate when water fluoridation was discontinued, and you will note that both communities are reestablishing the practice. The cost to EMD services, patient out-of-pocket expenses, third-party and government program costs such as Medicaid will likely skyrocket if community water fluoridation were to be reduced or discontinued. I don't want to see swollen faces that could have been prevented by water fluoridation, which still reduces decay, indeed, by as much as 25%. I can find many examples of mortality from dental abscesses. You find me one mortality from drinking optimally fluoridated tap water. What level of fluoride do you consider safe? If any level, how can that be proven? If no level, what about the generations that have been drinking naturally occurring fluoride between 0.2 and 0.3 milligram liters all their lives, long before the white man ever got here? You can't have it both ways. In Montgomery County, I had a well tested at 2.3, about a third of the recommended level, and you probably could find areas in Tennessee approaching half. The fact is there is no proven ill health effects from fluoride occurring naturally in water or optimally fluoridated sources. The idea that stopping water fluoridation will save money is misleading.
Mr. Stanislav, I appreciate how fast you read. I really do, but your time is expired.
Thank you, sir.
And, you know, my process of elimination is that your name is Alicia Azimipur. Is that correct? If you could state your name and who you're with, and you'll have a hard 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Alicia Azimipur. I am the current legislative chair and incoming president of the Tennessee Dental Hygiene Association. Our stance on this is, of course, we support water fluoridation at 0.7 parts per million. And what no one else has mentioned is that we also support individual governments being able to choose whether they want fluoride in their water. Currently, Tennessee is not mandated to make anyone fluoridate their water. So this would, across the board, take rule away from local governments, for one. Personally, I have been a dental hygienist for 14 years. I also have a degree in public health. I've worked in both public health dentistry and general dentistry. And I have done a lot of volunteer work. And I can tell you, no matter if it's a child, if it's an adult or a senior, they all benefit from whether it be systemic, topical fluoride. I would like to say that the terms of mass medication is a very hard thing to put in front of people and say, because if you take the fortification of foods, that's supplementation. We are supplementing our children, our adults, and our seniors with fluoride that is needed to strengthen their teeth against the diet that we have created in this United States. Yes, it is a behavioral issue. We need to do something about food in this country. We need to do something about lowering sugar in this country. We also need to have children and adults drink more water. So it could be even higher if people drink more water instead of sodas, energy drinks, coffees with milk. So that is our stance, is at optimum level, 0.7 parts per million is evidence-based to be effective and safe. And then also keeping governments, giving them their power to choose. Thank you.
All right, members, we've heard from our guest. I know that we have a couple of questions for our sponsor, but do we have questions for our guests? Okay. Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Culver, you were a utility director, water director, and you said you've done that for several years. Do you have the latitude in your capacity to determine what the fluoridation is of the water? And do you have the ability to not put it in there all now currently? Or does state law require you to put so much in there?
Mr. Culver, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. If it is required from in the municipality that I operate, it is required for me to put it in at that 0.07 parts per million and maintain that. But the thing I cannot do is I cannot ensure that that's all the way across my entire distribution center. Because if you've got dead end lines and you have stagnant areas, it's going to condense and accumulate in those areas, if that's going to answer your question, sir.
Chairman Grills, you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So your municipality or your utility district can decide if they want to fluoridate or not. They have the option locally, as I guess is my question.
Mr. Culver, let me recognize you,
yes,
please.
Sir, thank you. It's the only chemical as an operator that I cannot take out of my water system without prior approval from the health department and public consent.
Let me move to, if it's okay, I want to stay by what I'd said earlier, and I want to go to Mr. Shaw, and then we will perhaps come back. Representative Shaw, you're recognized for our guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the doctor, how long have you been practicing?
Dr. Call, let me recognize you.
Yes. 49 years.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you for that.
Public health, a community health center in Louisville, and then private practice.
Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been here 25 and a half. I think this first time I've seen you, if it's that bad, why didn't you come early and tell us this? I mean, why you let us drink this water so long if it's so bad before you come to tell us about it?
Dr. Call, you're recognized if you want to be.
Well, this is the first time I've been invited. Number one, like I indicated, I've been studying the issue for many years and teaching about it and testifying it in Kentucky for the last several years. And there's a lot of research in the last 8 years that's been published, funded by NIH, by the way. And so there's been a lot of new research that has given us data that we didn't have before. And because of that new data, new understanding, like the Cochrane Report 2024, that's just been out a short period of time, showing that the alleged benefit of water fluoridation reducing decay rates is not the 25% that's been alluded to previously. It's more like 3 or 4%.
To call, Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you who came today to testify. Thank you to the dentist and to the dental hygienist. I grew up on a dairy farm in a rural part of East Tennessee, and we had well water. And I spent a lot of time in the dental chair as a child getting my cavities filled. I am very concerned if we mandate this across the state without giving jurisdiction to individual counties and utility districts to make the decision on what's best for their district. We are doing a very big disservice to those children who are not on city water. And so I just want to say, I think we really have to think that a state mandate across the board is not a good thing. Thank you.
Okay, I didn't necessarily hear a question in that for one of our guests, or did I?
And thank you to them.
Thank you for.
Sorry.
Thank you for your gratitude. Is there another question for our guest? I'm going to go back to Chairman Grills if you had another, but no one else. Chairman Grills, do you have another question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for accommodating me. I was just curious, do you have the option to or not to fluoridate your water? I guess is my question locally. Is there a local decision-making process to opt in or opt out
Mr. Culver,
across the state.
Mr. Culver, you're
Thanks.
recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. If we are currently fluoridating, we cannot remove without health department approval and public consent. It's the only chemical, again, I reiterate, it's the only chemical I cannot remove as an operator. I can remove any other chemical and do anything that I want to with any other chemical, but I cannot do that without health department approval and a public notification. But after a long period of time, and I have done this before in Saudi Daisy and some other places, helped with other municipalities remove fluoride, but it is a long and extended process of trying to do that. It takes days and months, and you have a lot of large three-letter organizations that push against it and scare people to death. And you have these small little municipalities that try to do this. And when you bring in these big groups with big money, they can squelch it very quickly. So it's a very hard thing to do. I've personally done this, and I've been in this fight for quite some time, and we've only been able to remove just a very few. So that's why we need this state.
Chairman Grills for a follow-up.
Thank you. This is it. Now, you work here in Tennessee. Earlier you said you had been in different states, but currently you work here in Tennessee. In what utility district?
Mr. Culver, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I'm not currently working in the state of Tennessee. I do currently work in the state of Mississippi as a water utility operator.
Okay.
And I have previously, just within the last few months, just retired from some of those other locations that I mentioned to you earlier.
Okay, I want to move to Representative Jones has a question for our guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to all of you for being here. I'm honestly very conflicted about this bill, and I just was doing some research and was looking at countries that have banned fluoride. It said that France, Germany, Italy, Sweden, and the Netherlands does not fluorinate its water, with many having explicitly banned or stopped the practice. Over 90% of the UK and most of Switzerland also do not add fluoride. Other countries that have banned or stopped fluoride include Israel, Finland, and Japan. So there's a lot of countries who have stopped this practice. I'm just curious if any of you know the data of these countries that have banned fluoride. What have they seen, and why would they ban this? And we would allow our citizens to continue to have this based on the data.
Representative Jones, are you asking an individual? You just want to see which one of them?
Yeah.
If you'd raise your hand, Doctor, I'll go to you first.
Yes. In fact, there's a graph. We weren't allowed to use slides or props, but there is a graph that shows a comparison of countries that have fluoridated water and those that have not. And you see a downward trend starting back in the 1970s to where the levels of tooth decay are pretty much equal between those two groups of countries. And the consensus is the reason for that is the topical benefit from fluoridated toothpaste. And of course, fluoride treatments that might be provided in a dental office as opposed to adding it to the water. As to why those other countries have disallowed the use of fluoride, the precautionary principle that I pointed out earlier is very prominent, much more prominent throughout Europe and other parts of the world. And when they are conflicted, they apply that precautionary principle and step back from doing something. The whole idea is first, no harm in adding something that we now have data that's calling it even more into question.
Mrs. Emipore, did you want to respond to that question?
I would like to, please.
Mm-hmm.
It is because around the world, we do not have the same amount of fluoride in our soils and our waters. Everywhere is different. The reason why Japan doesn't have it in their water is because they don't need to. They have it in their soil and in their water to where it's either optimal or it's too much. So they've regulated that way. Same thing with European countries. They have it in their soils and in their waters to where it doesn't need to be added. And that could be the case for parts of Tennessee, but that needs to be investigated. So letting every society or every local government be able to test their own water and see where they're at and what needs to be added would be at most benefit.
Follow up? Okay, members, we are 55 minutes into, and we have another 35 minutes and other bills to get to. Are we ready to go back into session? Okay, if that we're going to go back into session. Thank you so much for our guests for traveling and for your care and concern for the great state of Tennessee. We're back in session. Representative Renaud, we have two questions. Question, first of all, Chairman Todd. Well, before I go to Chairman Todd, Representative Renaud, is there anything you'd want to say, or would you rather just respond to questions here?
I wouldn't mind responding to some of the comments made.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to point out that the studies that many of the old studies have been used are not on the most currently used fluoride product that is added in chemical companies. No study that I could find actually studied the effects of the fluorosilicic acid that is currently used. They are often based in whatever is naturally occurring in the water, in the groundwater that's already present. So I think that's an important thing to note when we're talking about studies. Back to Chairman Grills' question about or the reference on whether they can remove it. There are many counties that don't even have their own health department. So it does come back to the state who does need to make the decision ultimately for them. And then also there are some countries that were mentioned that they did ban the fluoride, but they also provided an alternative that they again could use and individually choose. So I hear the argument or the desire to let these individual counties choose, but I want to reiterate with what Mr. Culver said. It is a long process. There are many people who ask for this. The only way that we can restore a true choice is to restore individual choice. And the only way we can do that is to remove fluoride from the public water, and then people can choose to add it. There are fluoride tablets. Of course, there's a toothpaste. There's many ways that people can do it, but we do not give a majority of the people who want to remove fluoride from their water a choice when it's already in the public water. So with that, I'll.
Thank you, Representative Renaud. I'm going to call on Chairman Todd. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I ran a similar bill last year, and we really put a lot of shoe leather into getting into the nitty gritty of this. Talked to a lot of dentists, had a lot of folks in the office, and ended up dying on the Senate side before we could really get any traction in the House. And one of the things I learned, not only from talking to those groups, but just my own research, I know I've made contact with a fellow that sells the fluoride chemicals. And he said it is the most expensive thing, expensive thing by far that these water districts have to buy. And it's the most hazardous. He said this stuff has already been testified. It's super corrosive. It's highly toxic. It is very dangerous for the workers to even handle. So putting that in your water would at least make me very concerned. Second to that, one of the most astounding things I found is the dentist gave me a list of all the water systems in the state that fluoridate. And I went down that list and I asked them two questions. How many dentists do you have in McNairy County that are calling you saying, we've got a major health crisis here, our kids' teeth are falling out? Or in Murray County, the same question, because nobody in McNairy County fluoridates their water, and the city of Columbia does not fluoridate theirs and hasn't for quite some time. And no one can answer that question. And we didn't even hear that answer today from the dentist. I would think that would be significant. I asked that question of their association last year. They have yet to bring me an answer for that. So I have to assume from that, there are no problems. They don't have that issue because they're not fluoridated. So I think we've got an educated bunch of doctors, that many of which are my friends, that have been taught, recertified, that we have to have fluoride in our water to survive. And it's hard for them to get away from, I think, that idea, that teaching, when we have so much evidence that says this could be a problem. So I personally appreciate your bill and appreciate the folks that came to testify. It's really good information that we got on both sides, but I certainly cannot support continuing to fluoridate our water. And again, the process, as you mentioned, is so onerous to ever remove that once you start fluoridating, that the citizens are really left in the dark on it.
Representative Renaud, if you wish to respond.
Thank you for your support.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions. Without objection, we're going to go to vote. Clerk, if you'll open the board. If you are for House Bill, get the right number here, 2396, vote yes. And if you're opposed, vote no. Clerk, if you would, is anybody wish to change their vote? Clerk, if you would read the total, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 ayes, 3 noes, and 1 present not voting.
Congratulations, Representative Renaud. Your bill is passed and goes to full ag. Now we'll go to number 6, item number 6, 803 by Chairman Grills, which is number 17 on the item, but we're moving it up as our 6th bill, 803. Do we have a motion? Second? All right, we have an amendment, I believe. Chairman Grills, can you give us, well, let's have a motion and a second on the amendment.
Which,
Yeah, well,
I have amendment number, Mr. Chairman, I have amendment number 014272.
You are correct. That's the amendment we're dealing with. Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? It's a motion?
Second.
Second. All right, if there's no objections, we'll go ahead and put that on the bill. All those in favor by signifying aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. The bill is properly before us. Chairman Grills, please explain your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill creates a clear regulatory pathway for alternative wastewater treatment systems to serve development areas not currently served by local utilities. This bill creates a framework to encourage innovation for wastewater infrastructure and new technologies in Tennessee. It requires all systems to meet strict federal and state environmental standards. It gives the local utility district a 30-day first right of refusal to own and operate the proposed system. It allows the utility a 2-year look-back period to assume ownership if they choose. Requires notification of the Tennessee Board of Utility Regulators if a utility declines. Imposes bonding requirements of 100% replacement cost for the first 2 years and 50% for the next 3 through 10. Once the 50% of capacity is met, that bonding takes place from year 3 through 10 at 50%. Prohibits operators with unresolved complaints, violations in the state from operating these bad actors and from participating, and requires compliance documentation before any ownership transfer. And in larger counties above 350,000, it's either, we're going to call it meet it or beat it system. So it either has to meet their standard or be better than what those counties offer now. And with that, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Chairman Grills. We perhaps have a question for him, but we do have gentlemen that have traveled here to testify. If we want to preclude any questions for Chairman Grills, I'm going to ask our guest, John Cook, Blair Brown, and Trey Lewis, if you would please come and take a seat. And we'll go out of session. And if I understand that perhaps not all three of you are going to speak, but one of you is going to speak for all of you, and to introduce that we have someone here from East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and West Tennessee, showing the great diversity and the unity of the great state of Tennessee. So which one of you wants to be the spokesman? You have 3 minutes. And identify yourself and who you're with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Trey Lewis. I'm with Old South Properties, which is a home builder in Middle Tennessee. And this bill is very important because we feel that the citizens of our state deserve access to the highest quality wastewater treatment systems that are available. Currently, they do not in all areas. This bill, it's not about systems. You're going to hear a lot of talk on different systems. This bill creates a framework where it can encourage developers to invest in new technologies in wastewater treatment and have a framework for accepting those and moving forward into the future. We can't predict what a lot of these systems are, but we have fail-safes in the bill for the operator. If the utility district does not want to assume operation at first, they can come back and first right of refusal up to 2 years and say, hey, we do want this system. There's provision for that. If they don't want it, we also have a provision where they notify TBOR and they are removed from full liability on the system from that point forward. There's been a lot of questions about failure of the systems. It's really, we put bonding requirements in that are, higher than most other projects and other issues. But the main thing is, would be a private operator. They are bonded, licensed, and insured with oversight by the state of Tennessee. They are bonded. So in the event 20 years down the road, the operator was to have a failure, the bond requirements had all been exercised and fulfilled, and who would be stuck with the system? Well, there's several answers to that question. If the operator had incorporated it with the homeowners association, there would be reserves set aside. If it was not a homeowners association, for example, it would be the state of Tennessee, just like it would be if you were paving I-24 in the left lane, the contractor went broke. Who's going to fix it? The state is going to have oversight, just like they do now. If a utility district failed to operate, the same situation, except we have more bonds in effect. Basically, all we want to do is have the option when treatment services are not available that are cost effective to find a better solution, and where everyone in our state can have access to the best and highest quality, latest technology available.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Cook, Mr. Brown, do you need to add anything or just respond to questions? State your name and who you're with.
John Cook. I'm with Cook Bros Homes. I'm out of Knoxville, Tennessee area. The one thing I'll add to what Trey had to say was, as developers, we follow two things. We follow the land and we follow wastewater. The land means we can only build on land that topographically you can build on and that is zoned to build on. But we also need access to sewer. If we don't have access to sewer, it's impossible to construct affordable or attainable housing because the lot sizes gets larger in all the jurisdictions if you don't have access to sewer because you have to do septic. So none of us really want to be in the sewer business, but when utilities won't service us, or either they won't or they can't, this allows us another avenue, another option to provide the citizens of Tennessee with homes.
Mr. Brown, you're good, or you want to say something briefly?
I'd like to say something, yes.
Please tell us who you are and who you're with.
Blair Brown of West Tennessee. I'm a production home builder, mainly a first-time home buyer product out of West Tennessee, out of Shelby County specifically, and the surrounding counties known as Tipton and Fayette County. Our biggest constraint right now is the sewer system when it comes to home affordability. We've been on the Hill for the last 2 days alone fighting for home ownership and the ability to build rooftops for new residents within the state of Tennessee. I, for one, am losing a lot of potential home buyers to the state of Mississippi because I don't have access to sewer in Shelby County. For instance, Shelby County has a sewer moratorium going on. I don't have the ability to tie into their sewer if I pay for the whole thing, take on all the liability, all the risk, and then deed that product back to the wastewater provider locally. I have no option. So Shelby County, for instance, one of our largest, most densely populated communities or counties in the state of Tennessee, is at a standstill. Unless something like this is passed, it'll remain to lose populace to a different state or disperse across other counties in the state of Tennessee. So I could greatly appreciate your support in this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have any questions for our guest, Representative Fritz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for your time today. We spoke some earlier this morning. I apologize for having to step out. Lots of bills going. In your all's opinion and what you're doing, and we talked for a long time in my office earlier today, do you see anything in this legislation that's going to residually harm the current citizens in the areas so that a cost would be passed on to them from the development?
I would ask,
or do you see this as a bill that prevents that from happening?
If one of you would like to answer that, I'd ask you to raise your hand that I could recognize you. Yes, you're recognized, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Cook.
Mr. Cook.
You're good. So to answer your question, no, because the extra costs usually come when the utility has to extend lines, add lines, maintain lines. Now these lines are not being maintained or extended on the backs of people that are in that community. So a lot of times they're raising rates because they have to maintain lines. And that's one of the big things that utilities have to do is they have to reserve money to maintain lines and things of that nature. These lines are all going to be inside of that community and paid for by the residents of that community and maintained by the residents of that community. So it takes the burden off of the utility, which would potentially be passed on to residents who are already there.
Representative Fritz for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One quick follow-up. So is there a bonding mechanism that helps protect that as the future goes?
Mr. Cook?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Representative Vital.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we have all worked hard to try to discuss this issue and to try to common ground for growth in Tennessee, although across the state, diversity of land and geography are uniquely different, and expansion in some places is not compatible with disposal systems. I know that the Tennessee Association of Utility Districts have been opposed to this bill, although there's been a lot of concessions made to get to where we are today. My question is the follow-up on the bonding issue. From the time, and maybe this is to the sponsor, but since you understand the bonding issue, from the time that the project is completed until there's 50 units occupied, what mechanism in place to protect the system during that time? Is it covered under a bond, or is that left to the developer's viability?
Mr. Lewis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under the bill, the original that came out of the Senate, it was years 1 and 2 was 100% of the cost of the system. Years 3 onward to 10 were 50% of the value of the system. We added a provision to where years 1 and 2 or 50% of the homes in the neighborhood are occupied is when that clock starts for the years 3 and onward.
Representative Vital for a follow-up.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Also, there are counties in this state that have higher standards than what are outlined in here. Where do you see that going?
Representative,
Or is this all about just growth at any cost?
Yeah, Mr. Lewis, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. What we have done also, because again, we do not want bad legislation. And like we said earlier, we do not want to be in the sewer plant business, but we do want to solve the problem. And this problem has been here a long time. And this bill goes a long way from keeping what's happening now from happening 15 and 20 years from now. These systems that are failing are being managed by utility districts. And my question to everyone is, why would you not want access to the latest and greatest technology in your county? And to also answer the question for Hamilton County, and it was a great point, and we adjusted the bill because of it. At the request of the Senate, we added the TDEC published minimums. And your WWTA is currently delivering at standards higher than those published minimums. So we added into the bill for counties like Hamilton, 350,000 residents or more, that we would meet or beat the either the published TDEC minimums or the actual standards being delivered by the local utility.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I want to ask just one clarifying question myself. Now, if this system fails 25, 50 years down the road, whatever, and the HOA isn't around and the utility operator's not around, this is not going to fall on WWTA. This is not going to fall on the county taxpayers. This is going to fall on TDEC and the state if there was a disaster at some point down the road. Is that a true statement? You're recognized.
In the unlikelihood of everything failing and all of that, a lot of things have to happen for that to come into play. But that would be the case. When the utility district says, no, we do not want this system, they notify TBOR, they're absolved of all future responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Do we have any other questions for our guest? Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I want to clarify something that you just asked and he just answered. Not sure he answered exactly what you were asking. In the event of failure, TDEC doesn't take over anything. It is not their responsibility. That's not in the law. Now, it's been asserted that the county is responsible for it. I don't believe that's in the law. Nobody's brought me that to show me. I've asked that for several days now. But there is an owner of that system from day one, and they can't just walk away from it. They've got a TDEC permit. They've got responsibilities. They can't just throw up their hands and, somebody's got to operate that system. So if they're going to go bankrupt, let's say, somebody else, the homeowners, it'd be in their interest to get some other entity to operate that. So there's a connection to real persons, even if that person's a business, all the way through this.
Thank you. All right. We're going to, without objection, thank you to our guests for coming. I don't see any other questions. We're going to go back into session. You're dismissed. And we will go back in session to the sponsor, Chairman Grills. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would make one point. The governor stated of the state, he put $30 million into affordable homes. that's taking dollars from taxpayers and redistributing them. All we're trying to do is create a framework here to help lower the cost of homes so more people will have the opportunity to buy them. New technology is a good thing. We ought to be open to new technologies and the best technologies. Some of the stuff that they can do on a spaceship blows my mind. And if they can do things like that on a spaceship, surely they can make better improvements to wastewater facilities over the past 20, 30 years.
Chairman Todd, you have a question or comment?
I'm very supportive of the bill, the idea. I do have a couple of concerns. I love the bonding. That was one of the first things that was discussed early on when I was asked about this concept. Let's make sure there's somebody that's got a bond so that these homeowners aren't having to go mortgage their homes again to pay for a system upgrade or anything. But the one thing that a couple of things I do see here that concern me, the population limit is a concern because we generally don't put those brackets on from a constitutional standpoint. But beyond that, many of these systems may use drip irrigation or some kind of infiltration in soil and not discharge. But as I read this amendment, it indicates that they have to meet at least TDEX minimum or the greater of either TDEX minimum, which for drip irrigation is not very clean water, quite frankly, or what's being delivered by the municipality. When most of these, I would dare say probably all of them, are discharging to a stream. They have much tighter limits, much more treatment required to get to that limit. So I'm concerned that we may be constraining these great systems that would work for a drip irrigation, easily work for that, but they may not be able to meet the requirements of what that nearby system, which is not related to this at all, totally different. It doesn't discharge to their system. It doesn't touch their system. So that's the one concern I have. I'm still going to support it, but I think that may be something we need to look at correcting at the next committee stop.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? Clerk, if you will open up the board and start the voting. Clerk, if you would please announce the vote total.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes and 1 no.
House Bill 803 moves to full committee. And now we will move on to House Bill number 2322 by Rep. Sherrill. There's a motion. There's a second. And we will, Representative Sherrill, do you have an amendment?
Yes, sir.
Can you give us that drafting code?
It is 013707, sir.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a second. If there's no objections, we'll go ahead and put that amendment on the bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. Bill's properly before us. Representative Sherrill, we're so glad you're here. Please explain your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This bill, of course, it concerns our honeybees, is brought to us by our constituents in White County. It has support from the Blount County Beekeepers Association and our local beekeepers back home. What it does is reclassifies the bees from an insect to a livestock. And the reason why is to bring this into code between the farmer's product means on the TCA code 43-1-113B2 and the definition of livestock. And it allows for future federal grants to access where they can get grant money to help in their beekeeping association and keep our bees in production in Tennessee.
Nation, and at this time, I'm going to recognize Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you answered my response at the end of it. So you're classifying them as livestock so you can get grants, is what you're saying. It's just the first time I heard of classifying the bee as livestock. So I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
All right, Representative Fritz. Representative Sherrill, do you have any response to that except thank you?
Thank you. It is my first time too. So,
Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the bill. Anything we can do for the beekeepers, as a former beekeeper, it's a big thing. The populations are declining because all the uses of chemicals, atmospheric and everything else. So it's a big thing to do. One quick question for you. Since we are now going to call the honeybees livestock, will we have bee rustlers in Tennessee.
Representative Cheryl, you can answer if you so desire.
Well, I'll say this. If I understand back years ago, Albert Einstein said, if we lose our bees, time is over. So bees are very important. So we need to do everything we can to keep bees in production so we can get some good honey.
Thank you, Representative Cheryl. Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there any states that have made the switch to classify bees as livestock, and what are they considered currently? Are they considered agricultural products, or what are bees classified as now, and what states have made the change to call them livestock now?
Representative Cheryl, you're recognized.
To my understanding, Kentucky has done this, is where some of this information come from. I don't know of any other states other than what I've been told about Kentucky.
Representative Jones for a follow-up.
And what are they classified as now? Because there has to be a classification for bees. Are they considered agricultural products, or what are they classified as currently?
Representative Cheryl, you're recognized.
You're talking about what bees are classified right now? They're called the insult type bee. Nothing but more or less than just a bee. I mean, insect, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're going to vote on House Bill 2322. Clerk, if you would please open up the board. Members, please vote. Has everyone voted? Does anybody wish to change their vote? Clerk, would you please read the vote for us?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes and 0 noes.
House Bill 2322 moves on to full committee. At this time, thank you, Representative Cheryl.
Honey, I would sure bring it to you.
Representative Cheryl will be here next week, so we'll be waiting on you. House Bill 2215 by Representative Ashley. We've had a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Representative Ashley, do you have an amendment?
Yes.
Can you give us that?
013-844.
There's a motion. There's a second. And if there's no objection, we'll go ahead and put that amendment on the bill. All those signifying in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. The bill is properly before us. Representative Ashley, we're so excited to have you here today. Please explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill was brought by the city of Gatlinburg and the city of Pigeon Forge, and also with TWRA. This bill authorizes the director of Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency to enter into an agreement with local law enforcement agencies for the limited purpose of assisting the agency with the enforcement of laws, rules, and proclamations passed by the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission. Require such agreements to be limited in scope to assisting with matters of public safety specific to human-wildlife interaction that could cause a public safety concern. Requires local law enforcement agencies to provide regular reports to the director when authority under an agreement is exercised. It creates a Class B misdemeanor for feeding black bears within an area for which the commission has proclaimed that feeding black bears is prohibited. That's a summary of the bill, and TWRA, they're here too to speak, answer any questions about this bill.
And if we need them, Representative Ashley, if the members so desire, we will bring them up. But first of all, do we have any questions for the sponsor? Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to call a question on the bill.
Question's been called on the bill, and we are going to move at this time and ask the clerk if you would please open up the board. And members, if you would vote. Yes, no, or present. Is there any member that wishes to change his vote? Clerk, would you please read the total?
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes and 0 noes.
Congratulations, Mr. Ashley. House Bill 2215 moves on to the full committee. House Bill 2152 by Representative Davis. There's a motion and a second. Is there an amendment filed on your bill, Representative Davis?
Yes, Chairman, there is. And this is my first time in front of the committee, so I'm excited to be here.
I don't think I'd be telling this crew that. What is your drafting code?
014070.
Is there a motion on that amendment? There's a motion, second. If there's no objections, we'll go ahead and put that on the bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed saying no. The ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. The bill's before us. Representative Davis, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So committee, what this legislation does is it creates a clear distinction of when currently right now, the state vet and or the director of agriculture can call for a culling of a herd or destruction of animals or if there's any sort of disease. This creates in legislation to allow for someone to have fair compensation for that if that has been only authorized by the department at the state level. They have the ability to determine the fair market value, if there are funds available to offer the fair market value for that animal, or partial if the funds are not available, and they also have the ability, if they feel like that there has been some kind of fraudulent activity, not to honor that. I stand ready for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Clerk, if you would open up the voting board. And members, if you would register your vote. Has every member voted that's going to vote? Does anybody wish to change their vote? Clerk, would you please announce the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes and 0 noes.
House Bill 2152 moves to full committee. And next is item number 11. Yep, thank you very much. House Bill 2517 by Chairman Todd. It's item 15 on the agenda, I believe. There's a motion, second. Chairman Todd, you have a motion and a second. You can present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This comes from the agriculture industry, and it updates a bit of our code that gives our state vet certain authorities. And we outline here we've had previous debate in this committee on this topic, and so this is brought to kind of be a compromise to say, okay, we're gonna address some of the concerns that have been addressed over the years, and we trust our department, we trust our state vet, they're doing a great job. But we're always looking for how can we improve this for the next generation? Who else is going to be here? So this establishes a standard by which the state vet can exert their statutory authority to order testing or vaccinations. And by passing this legislation, the state vet can only mandate testing or vaccinations in the instance the disease outbreak is required by USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services as a monitor or notifiable disease. With that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Todd. The first question I have is from Chairman Grills. It's a question on the bill. Members, if you would, Clerk, if you'd open the voting board. If you're in favor, please register. If you're opposed, please make that known. Has everyone voted that wants to vote? Thank you very much. If anybody needs to change, none. Clerk, would you please announce the total?
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes and 0 noes.
House Bill 2517 moves to full committee. Our final item for the day is House Bill 1983. That was a great year by Chairman Grills. House Bill 1983. There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. There's an amendment on the bill. Yes, Representative Grills.
For time's sake, I'd like to roll this bill 1 week.
Without objection, we'll roll the bill 1 week. And that brings us to the end of our today. This concludes our agenda. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn? All right, we are adjourned.